Chapter 5, Contemplating the Goal, Sanyasa Yoga. Knowing this, you come to the place where all paths meet, and you achieve lasting peace of mind. Verse 1, Action versus renunciation, which are the same. Arjuna blurted out, I've been listening carefully, Krishna, but one moment you recommend the path of knowledge or contemplation, a sort of Sanyasa Yoga, and the next moment the path of desireless action, Karma Yoga. These seem to conflict. Which one is better for me? Krishna replies, both paths lead to the same goal, which is liberation, moksha. But Karma Yoga, the action path, is better for you, Arjuna, and for most. Many spiritual seekers assume they should withdraw like a sannyasi, a renunciate, and they may for a time be blessed with tranquility, but most often it is merely the ego masquerading as quietism. What matters is escaping self-will, ego. The person of selfless action is the true renunciate, the karma yogi. The person of selfless action, the karma yogi, who feels neither desire nor aversion and does not yearn for one thing or loathe another, is the true renunciate. What matters is not what you call yourself, but whether you escape your self-will or ego. With no ego, you break free of karma. The uninformed think that these two paths, renunciation, Sanyasa Yoga, and action, Karma Yoga, lead to different results, but that is not true. They are essentially the same. Compare them. Right knowing, Jnana Yoga, leads to right doing. Right doing, Karma Yoga, gives rise to right knowing. Take either path to the very end and they meet. The person who knows this oneness of paths really knows the truth. The role of action, karma. Direct experience is necessary for true knowledge of the benefits of selflessness. As I mentioned earlier, Arjuna, you cannot renounce action without first performing it. The karma yogi comes to realize through the direct experience of selfless action in the world that life beyond the pull of worldly desire is better than life entangled in it. Without direct experience, one has to rely on theory and concepts. Theorizing and make-believe have no place in one's spiritual career. Where the paths of action and renunciation converge, purity of mind and heart leading to oneness with Brahman. The mind absorbed in the divine, even while engaging in earthly activities, gets purified. Purifying your mind means that your sense of doership vanishes and God becomes the doer. It also means that you realize yourself as the Atma in all beings. This purity of mind and heart leads to higher spiritual discipline and thus to true oneness with the Godhead. It is at this highest of high places where the paths of renunciation and action converge. All action pertaining to the body, the worldly self, are all actions of nature, natural law, and not Atma. The enlightened person always thinks, I, the real I, do nothing. I, this body I, am but the instrument. He or she is constantly aware of this while seeing or hearing, smelling or touching, breathing or speaking, letting go or holding on, or even when opening or closing the eyes, aware that all these activities are but interactions among bodily senses and worldly objects. The activities may seem real, but it is not the self. It is merely nature at work. Atma, as you have learned, is beyond all worldly matters. As the lotus floating on the surface of muddy water stays untouched by the water, when you offer all actions to the divine and surrender any yearning for the results, you cannot be tainted. The body, senses, and intellect are just instruments for self-purification. Purity of action, mind, and heart is absolutely essential for further spiritual growth. To a karma yogi who has turned his or whole life toward divinity, the body, senses, and intellect are just instruments for self-purification. Any work this karma yogi performs is done dispassionately, and this enhances spiritual unfolding. It is a mysterious system, Arjuna. God established this system, but does not operate it. Divinity does not determine the worldly doings of humanity, nor does it instill the sense of doership, ego, into humanity, nor even does it link actions to the consequences of actions. Nature does all this. All actions, all works, all karma belong to nature, not the divine. Further, God is neither responsible for nor takes note of anyone's bad or even good deeds. Both bad and good karma are the result of actions performed by people who mistakenly think that their true self, Atma, is connected to the worldly, which it is not. This is an elusive but important point. The divine is absolute perfection, poise, and bliss. Worldly acts have no place in this blessed purity. Thinking otherwise is what I mean by ignorance and delusion. I repeat, God, the true self in each living being, is in no way a part of the goings-on in worldly nature. Important note from Sridhara Swami's commentary on Chapter 5, verse 15, the one we just read. The sublime, transcendental, supreme Lord, although the energizer and controller of all living beings in creation, does not partake of the merits of piety or the demerits of sins from any living entity. The reason being, it is all-pervasive, omniscient, and eternal, and thus it is always completely fulfilled, directing the living entities precisely according to their previous actions by his external potency known as Maya, the inscrutable, illusory energy. The light of wisdom. As the darkness of night vanishes when the sun rises, so too the darkness of ignorance and delusion is dispelled when you gain knowledge of your true self. Jnana yogis stay absorbed in the divine, merging into God, and are freed from birth and death. Jnana yogis, persons of wisdom, whom I previously referred to as Thithna Prajnas, illumined ones, ever fix their purified minds on divinity and stay completely absorbed in the divine, their one and only goal. In this way, they merge into God and are freed from the birth-death cycle, never to be born again. Born, meaning, of course, separated from the flat line, the void, the empty nothingness. Equal love for all. The illumined ones know that sunlight falls equally on all creatures. Those who possess this wisdom of self look with a unified vision upon all beings and have equal love for all, whether those beings are spiritually advanced or in the least in the ranks, or even a cow or a dog. The real knower of Brahman sees only divinity everywhere, in every being and in everything. Attaining the bliss of Brahman. Jnani yogis, free from delusion, directly experience their identity with Brahman, letting pleasure flash by like lightning. The wise ones, Arjuna, are totally free from delusion. They know the supreme Godhead, Brahman, and directly experience their identity in that. They are neither elated by good fortune nor depressed by what is painful. They neither rejoice nor grieve. They know that the sensation called pleasure appears and disappears like a flash of lightning, and know that the cost of pleasure is inevitably misery and pain, which is indeed a dear price. Sensual delights are the wombs of misery. The wise recognize the transient nature of worldly gratification, and thus do not look for happiness in the realm of the senses. Sensual delights are the wombs of misery. Earthly pleasures, though they seem enjoyable, are fleeting and ultimately painful. Wise ones know that misery inevitably, without fail, marches in lockstep with worldly pleasure. Transcend desire and anger, which arise in the body. Desire and anger are counterparts, Arjuna. Anger is your response to the frustrations of unfulfilled desires. When you can control or transcend desire and anger, which arise in your body, not your Atma, you will have found true, lasting happiness. The wise ones' minds and hearts reside firmly in the divine, always concerned with the welfare of all, which is true holiness. These wise ones' sins, or errors, have been washed away. Their desires and the anger and greed that always accompanies desires have vanished. Their ignorance has disappeared, cast out by knowledge of the Atma. Their minds and hearts are firmly resident in the divine, always seeking to contribute to the welfare of all. Those who attain the eternal bliss of divinity are the real holy ones. Divine meditation. The process for vanquishing the mind and senses consists of shutting out the external world, focusing one's gaze on the center of spiritual consciousness, between the eyebrows, and gradually equalizing the ingoing and outgoing breath. Then, when the body, mind, senses, and intellect are under control, without desire, fear, and anger, realization of the constant freedom and bliss within the Godhead comes. Ceaselessly think only of me, Arjuna. Know that I, Brahman, am the source of all.